Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are talking about mortgages, and in particular Spanish mortgages. And I'm very delighted to introduce you to Alison de Cotta, who is a qualified Spanish independent mortgage broker, to come and talk to us about basically how to get a Spanish mortgage in and put that in place. So, hello, Alison. How are you?
Hi, Alex. Good to see you, and thanks for inviting me on your video.
Our pleasure, our pleasure. So, Alison, just tell us about yourself. Tell us about your company, your qualification, what regulations you've complied with, etc. Who you're registered with.
Yeah, sure. Okay. So me personally, I've been in Spain for 25 years now, so quite a long time. Quite used to living down here and the way things work here. I've always been in finance. Worked for some of the large names. I worked for Royal Bank of Scotland, for Banco Santander, for Credit Suisse, for Societe Generale. So I've always been in finance. That's my background, always, from day job, so to speak. And then approximately 8 years ago, I decided to concentrate on assisting mainly non-resident clients with arranging their finance for the purchase of a second home or even for a main residence here in Spain. And I set up Mortgage Matters Spain 5 years ago. Have specialised mainly in mortgages since then. As far as qualifications are concerned, obviously I've got the experience of working in finance for all those years, but specifically relating to mortgages, I'm a fully qualified UK mortgage advisor, so CMAP would be the qualification, and then I'm also fully qualified in Spain as well. Spain brought in new regulations in 2019 to cover anything to do with mortgages and finance. And at that time, they also brought in new broker qualifications as well. So any broker that you're talking to should now be qualified to Spanish level and should also be registered with the Bank of Spain. Bank of Spain being the regulator here in Spain. So you need to be properly registered with them, and they're the ones that will keep an eye on you and regulate you and audit you if necessary as well.
Okay, so you're registered in Spain and basically can act for clients or help clients get a Spanish mortgage. But do you help people get UK mortgage as well?
No, I don't. I am purely focusing on the Spanish side of things. But if clients do need assistance, obviously I have contacts that I can.
Okay, thanks. And just tell us, what are the advantages of using a mortgage broker rather than, say, going directly to the bank?
Yeah, I mean, obviously clients can go directly to the bank. I think the main advantages, apart from the obvious language and cultural barriers, I think there are a couple of main advantages. The first one being that obviously what we do is we qualify clients before we send in the application. We give the banks a good volume of business and also good quality business, which means that we're in a strong position to negotiate some better terms and conditions rather than if you're just walking off the street. That's one of the things. The other advantage, I think, is that we can also get you an approval prior to you finding a property, which is quite often very, very useful for clients. We can actually qualify you for the approval before you even come out to Spain and start viewing. Because what you don't want to do is find that, clients found property, fall in love with it, then they need to scramble around and get the mortgage. So we can get all of that in place before they even come out to Spain. So that's
I mean, we're always advising our clients who are looking at purchasing a property in Spain to speak to an independent mortgage broker first, so they find out how much money they can borrow and how much they'll need to complete the purchase. So they've got the information up front because the mortgage, it can delay the conveyancing process. We can talk about that in a minute. And then, are there any specific services that you offer?
I mean, specific services, obviously, other than assisting with the clients with the finance, we will assist them with opening the bank account and take them through the whole process and work very closely with everyone involved, including, for example, lawyers like yourself. Very, very important that we work closely with them to get the clients to completion. We also liaise with the valuer and just assist with the whole process, especially when it comes to it's a very different process to what they may be used to in the UK, in the case of UK clients. And obviously, again, language barrier and also cultural barrier, so helping them with all of the documentation, making sure that they fully understand.
Okay. So we talk about you getting an agreement in principle from a bank.
Yeah.
How does that work, and what does someone have to do to get that before they can?
It's actually a bit more than an agreement in principle, Alex, because the agreement in principle, we can give them an agreement in principle once we've seen the fact find and we know that the numbers work. But we can actually go a step further and actually submit the application to the bank and get a full approval, if you like, subject to valuation. Obviously, if the client hasn't found a property yet, then what we're doing is getting the approval based on the affordability, based on the numbers. But we can get a full approval from the bank, so get that side of the mortgage approved. It's a little bit more than an agreement in principle as we know it in the UK. So that gives clients obviously a lot of peace of mind for when they're viewing, if they found something, if they've got the agreement in principle in their pocket, then they're a lot more confident in, putting in an offer, signing a contract, paying over a reservation fee, etc. So, yeah. So how do we go about doing that? So basically, we would put together a mortgage report along with a list of documents required. They would start sending us over the documentation, all in PDF format. Luckily, the banks don't require any original documentation, so that's good. And we will then submit that application to the various banks, and they will come back to us, usually fairly rapidly, around about a couple of weeks before we can get that approval for them. And then we have the approval set up for the client, ready for when they come out to Spain. Now, that approval is usually valid for around about a 3-month period, depending on the lender. So if the client doesn't find a property within those 3 months, not an issue. So basically, we leave it where it is. Then when they do find the property, they get back in touch with us. They ask, now found the property, we need to renew that offer. And as long as the circumstances haven't changed, it's a question of just updating the documentation that we had. And it should just be a formality. Like I say, as long as circumstances haven't changed, it should just be a formality to get that approval renewed for them.
So typically, Alison, you say it will take 2 to 3 weeks to get an agreement in principle. You can give them that over the phone once you've seen some information, financial information about the applicant. But for example, though, submitting it to the bank account, submitting it to the bank or potential lender, and getting a response from them, you're talking 2 to 3 weeks, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, but that's great, because I mean, I think it's very, very important for people to do their homework and prepare for their purchase. So if they allow 2 to 3 weeks to speak to you and to get a firm offer from a bank, I think that's quite, that's a very reasonable period of time.
Yeah.
So, as you know, buying off plan is quite important. Can you get an agreement in principle for clients who are buying a property off plan?
Again, we can get an agreement in principle and a solid offer for them based on the numbers that we have, which is very useful. Obviously, that's not going to, those funds are going to be when the property is finished. At completion, those funds will be released. So we can't assist them with the stage payments, so to speak. It's the mortgage that is left over after the stage payments have been done. It's whatever's outstanding at completion that we can assist them with. But yes, again, we do a lot of we assist a lot of clients who are buying off plan and who just want to know, is this feasible for me? So we can apply for that mortgage and get that agreement on the affordability side.
Okay. So typically speaking, when someone's buying off plan, the deposit is lump sum payments or stage payments of up to 30 or 40%.
Yeah. So
would your banks provide then finance for the balance of the 60%, Alison? Yeah, absolutely. So that's what we would be applying for. We'd be applying for the balance after the stage payments have been paid. Okay, cool. Yeah. Okay, and what documents do I need to provide for the mortgage application? Yeah, so documentation is actually very similar to what you'd be requested if you're applying in the UK. So basically what they want to know about is your income. So if you're self-employed, they'll be looking for tax returns for the last 2 years. If you have a company, then company accounts. If you're employed, they'll be looking for salary slips and P60s for the last 2 years. And then they want to see bank statements, and they'll want to understand also about your existing debt in the UK, and that would be in the form of a credit report,
which would show the list of all debts. So you've got a mortgage in the UK, if you've got personal loans, a car loan, etc.
Okay. And once someone's provided that to you, what are the next steps? What's the process to get that mortgage?
So once all of those documents are received, then I will package that up and approach the lenders with the application. I won't send in any applications until I have all of the documentation, until it's been fully qualified by ourselves. And then we give them a very clear sort of resume, if you like, about the client's circumstances. So that it's as easy as possible for them to process it reasonably quickly. And that's why we can do it with speed, because we're very thorough in the documentation before we submit it to the banks.
And when we act for clients now, it's very it's difficult sometimes for the seller to agree to accept an offer from a buyer which is subject to a mortgage.
Yeah.
So in effect, really what we can do is we can sign a reservation agreement, reserve the property, and then between that reservation and the next stage payment of the balance of 10% of the purchase price, leave a period of time of say 3 to 4 weeks, and during that time we can arrange the valuation of the, or basically we would ask the bank to arrange the valuation. Can you speed up that process? Can you arrange the valuation?
We can assist on the valuation side of things, and when we find that clients really are short of time and the numbers look absolutely fine, we can quite often simultaneously submit the application to the banks and also do an independent valuation on the property at the same time, saving a little bit of time. Because the banks now will accept an independent valuation from an independent valuer, as long as that valuer is properly regulated and recognised by the Bank of Spain. They have to accept that valuation.
And the key question is, when do the lenders release the funds for the mortgage?
Okay, so the funds won't be released until completion. On the day of completion, that's when they will actually release the funds into the client's own bank account. So everything needs to go through the client's bank account. All the funds for the purchase, all the funds for the costs relating to the purchase, and then the mortgage is actually credited to the same bank account.
Okay. And a question we get asked by some clients is, do they need an NIE number in order to apply for a mortgage?
You don't need an NIE number to apply for a mortgage, so we can do the whole process right up until the stage where approval is done on the affordability. We've done the valuation as well. We're ready to receive the binding offer, which means that 10 days later we can complete. We need to have those NIE numbers for the binding offer. So as long as we've got them, let's say 10 days before we complete, that's absolutely fine. You don't need to have them for the application itself.
Okay. And Alison, what would be the typical loan to value? How much could a resident borrow and how much could a non-resident borrow?
So non-residents, the banks will do up to a maximum of 70%, maximum that they will do. And not to say that you can definitely get 70 for all clients, obviously it depends on your financial profile. And if you're a resident of Spain, they will do up to 80%. But you need to have made at least your first tax declaration in Spain for them to consider you to be resident for the purposes of a mortgage application. So it's not enough to just suddenly become resident, and move out here. You need to have actually made at least one tax declaration before you can be considered to be a resident.
And what age up to what age can I apply for a mortgage?
So usually, it depends on the bank. They'll usually do a maximum of 20 or 25 years, and most of the lenders will want you to have finished your mortgage by the age of 70.
Okay.
We can push them to do a little bit more if you've got a very strong pension pot or private pension. We can push them to do a little bit more, a longer period, but usually around about the age of 70, possibly 75. So which is quite good. Clients are quite often surprised at the length of time that they will do.
So we've got a few years left yet, so we can apply.
We've got a few years left
by the age of 70. Okay, any other comments, Alison?
No, I would really urge people definitely to go down the agreement in principle route to get that approval done before you come out to view, because you really don't want to be in a situation where you find something that you love and you need to rush around getting a mortgage, because you know, like you say, the vendor may not be too happy to agree to subject to mortgage. So if you've got that first part already approved, so there's two parts of the mortgage: there's the affordability side and then there's the valuation side. If we've got the first part, the affordability side, approved, you're halfway there. So it'll give the client peace of mind, it'll make everybody else, and make the whole process much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's great advice. You know, if you're looking at buying a property in Spain with a mortgage, speak to an independent mortgage broker like Alison, and find out how much you can borrow. Try and get that mortgage in principle offer first, and then come to Spain and offer on properties.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much. And if you like this video, please like it. If you've got any comments, add some comments, and you can contact Alison on her website, which is Mortgage Matters Spain. And if you've got any queries about buying a property in Spain, you can contact the My Lawyer in Spain team at inquiries@mylawyer in Spain. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Alex. Thank you.